Bonjour à tous, grazie a tutti per l'invito. Io parlerò in inglese. And in this brief talk, I will speak about the digital library of the Ministry of Culture. And I will try to outline what are the digital library activities, with particular attention to the Next Generation EU investment that the digital library is responsible of, and the challenges that we have to face to implement this ambitious project, and the opportunities that this project offers. So the digital library is a kind of nickname. The full name is ICDP, the Central Institute for the Digitalization of Cultural Heritage of the Italian Ministry of Culture. The main mission of the digital library is to coordinate and promote heritage digitization programs of the institutes that are affiliated to the Ministry of Culture. Also, the digital library gives recommendations, guidelines, and documents on the digitization and the digital transformation initiatives of these cultural institutions, and to publish and to update the National Digitization Plan, or NDP, PND in Italian, a strategic operational document that promotes and guides the digital transformation processes in the next 5-year period, which also is the period in which the Next Generation EU plan has its targets and activities. So I will try to break down these harsh acronyms. NRRP is the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, PNRR in Italian. When you see M1C3, means Mission 1 and Component number 3. This is the taxonomy of every NRRP investment. The digital library is an actuating subject for the M1C3 1.1 investment, which full name is Digital Strategies and Platforms for Cultural Heritage. It is a quite relevant investment within the framework of the Ministry of Culture, and its total budget is 500 million euros. Such an investment has ambitious goals, since its economic resources are quite relevant and are spread into a long but not very long time frame, because we have our main objectives in 2025 and 2026. And as you can see here, I present to you the breakdown of the 12 main sub-investments of the M1C3 1.1 investments. These are 12 project streams, as we call them. They are all integrated and all complementary. We often break down these 12 streams into 4 main categories, which are the production services, services that create new assets, create new value, which are digitization of cultural heritage, but also education and skill upgrading that you see, the stream number 5 and stream number 6. Then we also have enabling services, 1, 2, 3, and 4, the digitization plan for the cultural heritage that sets up the environment, the cultural heritage digital identity certification system, and the cloud infrastructure that enable the cultural heritage software infrastructure, stream number 4. I have highlighted the stream number 4 and stream number 5 because these are the core investments of these all projects, and I will talk a little bit longer about them in a few minutes. But let me at least name stream number 7, 8, and 9, which are in the category of conservation services, services that can guarantee the long-term preservation of digital assets. And finally, the access services stream, stream number 10, 11, and 12, which will provide access to the digitized cultural heritage through three diverse approaches. Integrated access, which means the ability to query, to find the data. The stream number 11, co-create and crowdsourcing, and all the speakers that have spoken before me have very well highlighted the importance of a collaborative approach to cultural heritage. And finally, digital services platform for developers and enterprises, which will allow corporations, private institutions to create not only cultural value, but also economic value. So I will now briefly talk about the two main streams, as I have said, stream number 5, stream number 4. The stream number 5 is called digitization of cultural heritage. Please note that I'm using the words digitization and digitalization with different meaning. Digitization as a way of speaking about the process of creating new digital assets. So digital conversion of an analogic asset, creating the gigapixel of that painting, is a digitization process. While I speak about the digitalization process, I'm speaking broadly of digital transformation practices and processes of services and also public institution way of behaving and managing their collections. So the digitization of cultural heritage program is the most relevant from an economic perspective of the 12 streams, with a total budget of 200 million euros. And also the most challenging from the perspective of the targets that we have. If you are involved, and you surely are, in other next generation EU projects, you know that you have to deal with two different kinds of targets, the targets of the EU and the national targets. We have two different targets. One from the EU is the most relevant, prominent, 65 million new digital resources published in the digital library in December 2025, and other 10 million digital resources by June 2026. The main objectives are pretty clear: digitize collection of the objects of the GLAM sector, increase the cultural resources that are already available online, and retrieve what has already been digitized but not very often is accessible online. The famous 3D models in the hard disk in your desk. The digital library has already published 4 main procedures. These are call for tenders that are targeted to enterprises active in the field of the digitization. These 65 million new digital resources have to be made by professionals. And here I show you a broad overview of these procedures. One is targeted to microfilms, so digitization of ancient manuscripts. We will digitize 100,000 manuscripts that are represented in microfilms. But we also have newspapers published between 1861, the unification of Italy, and 1955, archival documents, which are an important part of the Italian cultural heritage and are very requested by architects, planners, urbanists. A procedure is targeted to artworks and archaeology museum deposits, and also photographs in the sovrintendenze. So as you can see, there is a red line, there is a trait d'union between these different procedures. They all are targeted to the enhancement of lesser known types of heritage. The artworks in the deposits, the archival documents in archives. And then we have a specific procedure on 3D and gigapixel images that we are also working in partnership with the CNR to create guidelines to regulate this process. And a section of the investment is dedicated to the regions that promote their own procedures of digitization, which, by the way, should be published today. So today, the different regions of Italy will publish their own thematic call for tenders for the digitization of cultural assets. And this was a very broad overview of the stream number 5, and let me conclude with the stream number 4, which is the real engine of the new ecosystem of cultural heritage, which is the objective of the investment 1.1. We have a manifesto for this new infrastructure that we, for the moment, call ISPC, Infrastruttura Software per il Patrimonio Culturale, because this infrastructure will not just be a data space, but will also be a space where our data is enriched and elaborated. So as you can see, it's the first national cultural data space that will host the heritage that will be digitized through the Stream 5, but also the new heritage that will be digitized after the Next Generation EU, within a native cloud environment. And also it would be a platform for the creation of and the design of innovative high-value services, not just for the ministry, but for other stakeholders, not just on a national, but also on a European level. And finally, artificial intelligence will play a key role in enhancing and enriching the assets that will be stored in the infrastructure. Trying to identify what these 4 core services are, as you can see in the slide on the left-hand side, we have management and processing of digital assets that comprises both the basic functionalities of an infrastructure, which is access, create, use, and delete. A speaker before me talked extensively about IIIF, which is the International Image Interoperability Framework, which will be also for the ISPC, the media players, streaming services for the images, but will also be able to manage different types of assets, text, speech, 3D, audio, video, and so on. Single and cross-domain knowledge graphs will be part of the ISPC. You can imagine this knowledge graphs as collective catalogs of information that people can access manually or through the use of ontologies. And finally, a very important component of the ISPC will be the PaaS, Platform as a Services, to create a data fabric. What is a data fabric? Is a platform for developers. Developers could use the PaaS to create their own custom product or services through APIs. So the model is shifting. Not everyone has the data in their own desk with much greater cost and much greater risk of losing the data, but the data is physically stored within the infrastructure that exposes the data through the APIs. Oh, sorry, the icons. Trying to visualize how this national digital cultural ecosystem will dialogue with different stakeholders, you can see that on the bottom side of the slide, we have the cultural institutions that will keep the ownership of their data. They can cooperate in 2 different ways. They can be federated or integrated. The federated cultural institutions will hold the ownership of the data, the assets, and will share the metadata. So the metadata is shared within the infrastructure. Vice versa, the integrated cultural institutions will also hold their data within the infrastructure. So the integrated can use the full potential of the infrastructure, products, and services. And on the top end of the cloud, of the ISPC, you can see that through the APIs, both B2I and B2B services can be enabled because both institutions and businesses can cooperate, or through the basic layer, the level 1 application that we call, or through the platform as a service functionalities that I have explained. And this is not a dream. We are already at the alpha release. The first early adopters will be some systems that are already existing in the regions, and the other coming from the central institutes of the Ministry of Culture. We have already cited them today, the ICCD, the Central Institute for the Catalog and Documentation, as well as the ICCU, so the Central Institute for the Catalog and the Libraries, who plays a greater role in the digitization of cultural heritage. Just the projects that you have seen that are converging on manuscripts and Dante are a key vital resource for our cultural heritage. And we have a clear roadmap that we want to focus on for the next years. So, in conclusion, let me say that it's very compelling and very interesting and inspiring to be here sharing these approaches with you, because I really feel a strong commitment of all of us to have a shared projectuality. I don't know if we say that in English. We share views, shared goals. And I think that the trait d'union between all the speeches that have been given is that they are all very collaborative, focused, and the ISPC will follow the same approach. So thank you very much.